Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal, and this is another tragedy where I'm left bewildered as to the women's decisions about protecting versus not protecting abortionists. Um, a 28-year-old homemaker named Annie Robinson died in her Chicago home at around 4 a.m. on August 18th of 1901. About 10 days earlier, she had confessed to her husband George and her mother, Mary Schroeder, that she was suffering the effects of a criminal abortion. She named midwife Teresa Muenster as the perpetrator. George told the family doctor, H.I. Hook, and Hook recommended that George notify the police. Both men did notify the police, but not until after Annie's death, so the police were unable to take a deathbed statement. After Annie's death, George spoke willingly to the police. I had no idea that my wife had visited Mrs. Muenster, and until she knew she was dying, she kept the matter a secret from me. When she learned she was about to die, she called to her bedside her mother and myself. She declared that she had visited the Muenster woman 3 times and that the midwife was responsible for her condition. I'm taking that to mean that the abortion was 3 visits. She told us, moreover, that her brother's wife, Caroline Schroeder, who died 2 years ago, had been a patient of the Muenster woman, and that the second treatment by the midwife proved fatal to her. I am determined to see that justice is done and that somebody shall pay for the death of my wife. I'm thinking that I don't know whether that means that Caroline died from the second abortion that Mrs. Muenster performed, or whether it was the second visit to Mrs. Muenster that proved fatal. The second attempt to abort the same baby. Muenster was about 60 years old and had been a practicing Chicago midwife for 30 years, and George, a cashier at a streetcar company, was left to care for the 2 small children. Muenster was arrested on the day of Annie's death and held by the coroner's jury, but I've been unable to determine the outcome of the case. And this is another one. I've often said I'm very bewildered as to why women will go to abortionists that have already killed somebody, and why they'll keep a deadly abortionist's identity a secret. They'll carry the identity of the person who killed them to their graves. It's like, don't you care about the other women that might go to them? And I know the pro-choice movement is just going to say, well, they're so desperate that they'll trust anybody. But, this was Chicago. There were abortionists up the wazoo, pretty openly advertising in the newspapers. Women's problems, guaranteed success, no surgery. Just pick a different one than the one that killed your sister-in-law. And, why did she keep the real cause of Caroline's death a secret instead of getting Muenster closed down? But when she's the one that's dying, now it's time to hold Muenster accountable for what she did. This is all very perplexing. I'd love to figure it out. Unfortunately, so much time has passed that the women in question, the women who made these decisions, are pretty much all long since dead. But we also see it with safe legal abortions. Women would go repeatedly to Kermit Gosnell. They'd send their friends to Kermit Gosnell. And again, it can't be that they're so desperate that they'll go to anybody, because it was Philadelphia. It's that kind of Northeast Metroplex corridor. There were plenty of abortions just up and down the coast who would gladly have done these abortions, but for some reason women were going to Gosnell. And some regretful post-abortive women have said that they kind of felt like they deserved horrible care, and that was why they were willing to, fine, whatever, I kind of deserve to die. Fatalism. It's bewildering to me. I think it's tragic that Caroline and Annie ended up dead. I think it's tragic that these children grew up without a mother. I think it's tragic that George and that Annie's brother lost their wives. And Yeah, I don't see the solution as promoting more abortions. I see it as um, being supportive of women who are pregnant in difficult times.